The animals continue to work like slaves, but are content in the knowledge that their sacrifice is for the benefit of the farm and themselves. Their new freedoms, however, are gradually being eroded by Napoleon. He introduces voluntary work on Sunday afternoon. Any animal that refuses to attend has their rations reduced by half. The construction of the windmill begins, but the animals find it difficult to break up the stone from the quarry. With the help of Boxer, they manage to drag the enormous stones to the top of the quarry and crush them on the rocks below. True to his maxim, "I will work harder," Boxer continues to be an inspiration to the other animals. To see him toiling up the slope, inch by inch, his breath coming fast, the tips of his hoofs clawing at the ground, and his great sides matted with sweat, filled everyone with admiration. He works tirelessly in the quarry, waking almost an hour before the other animals and spending all of his spare moments crushing the rock. Life continues to be hard, and the animals console themselves with the fact that if they had no more food than they had in Jones's day, at least they did not have less. Napoleon announces, contrary to the rules of animalism, that Animal Farm will start trading with surrounding farms to obtain goods and materials that they can't make themselves. The animals feel uneasy about this decision. Once again, the animals were conscious of a vague uneasiness. Never to have any dealings with human beings, never to engage in trade, never to make use of money. Had not these been among the earliest resolutions passed at that first triumphant meeting after Jones was expelled? All of the animals remembered passing such resolutions, or at least they thought that they remembered it. 4 young pigs who start to voice protest are promptly silenced by Napoleon's dogs. Once again, Squealer convinces the animals that the decision is in their best interest, and the farm will be better off. Afterwards, Squealer made a round of the farm and set the animals' minds at rest. He assured them that the resolution against engaging in trade and using money had never been passed, or even suggested. It was pure imagination, probably traceable in the beginning to lies circulated by Snowball. The pigs announce they're going to move into the farmhouse. Squealer persuades the animals that this decision is necessary because they need a quiet place to work. It was also more suited to the dignity of the leader to live in a house than in a mere sty. Nevertheless, some of the animals were disturbed when they heard that the pigs not only took their meals in the kitchen and used the drawing room as a recreation room, but also slept in the beds. When the animals go to read the 7 commandments inscribed on the side of the barn, they discover that it says, "No animal shall sleep in a bed with sheets." The dogs growl viciously and silence any further dissent. In this chapter, a terrible storm ruins the windmill. Napoleon seizes the opportunity to blame Snowball for the disaster. "Snowball has done this thing in sheer malignity, thinking to set back our plans and avenge himself for his ignominious expulsion. This traitor has crept here under cover of night and destroyed our work of nearly a year." This is a technique often used by totalitarian governments, creating a sense of fear so people will look up to a strong authoritarian leader for protection. In Chapter 6, Napoleon's greed continues to grow. Not content with just taking the apples and the milk, the pigs move into the farmhouse and start sleeping in beds. Napoleon uses a combination of propaganda and fear to keep the other animals from questioning this decision. The construction of the windmill represents the industrialization of Russia under Joseph Stalin. Under his rule, the USSR went through a rapid period of industrialization. Overseas experts were hired to build hundreds of factories to improve manufacturing. In the late 1920s, Stalin introduced 5-year plans to help the country develop. Although they were largely failures, these plans helped the country achieve large-scale industrialization very quickly. Governments often blame problems on scapegoats. In Nazi Germany, Adolf Hitler used the Jewish people as scapegoats for the country's problems. Throughout the novel, Napoleon uses Snowball as a scapegoat for the farm's problems and to inspire fear in the animals. And now it's time to have a little bit more of a casual chat about Chapter 6. As usual, you'll need a pen or a highlighter to mark some of the important passages, quotes, and your observations about this chapter as well. I guess one of the most important observations about how this chapter opens is that very first sentence, really, where Orwell notes that the animals worked like slaves. Of course, life is now becoming much worse than it was under Farmer Jones, and the animals aren't really noticing that just yet. They're still kind of, as Orwell writes here, happy in their work. They grudged no effort or sacrifice because they believe that it's in, for they're working towards their advancement and for their welfare. Once again, as I noted just before, this chapter is really important in terms of setting up Boxer as a character. And ultimately, all of this really positive characterization is building towards his betrayal later in the book. So I've marked quite a lengthy passage here describing his very industrious work, dragging the boulders up to the hill and smashing them on the rocks below. What you'll also notice in this chapter is the gradual erosion of these key beliefs of animalism. Of course, very early on in this chapter, the pigs start trading with neighbouring farms, engaging the services of Whymper. And again, the quote that I've underlined here is the vague uneasiness that the animals have over this. And they're kind of doubtful and dubious that, this is okay. Once again, they're kind of compelled into silence by a tremendous growling from the dogs and the bleating of 4 legs good, 2 legs bad. And once again, Squealer plays a really important role in convincing the animals that, there were no rulings against trade from the very, very beginning. And of course, this erosion of those key beliefs of animalism continues as the pigs move into the farmhouse. And that hierarchy, again, established in the fact that the animals really have to refer to Napoleon now as under the title of leader. And with a little bit of surprise, the animals discover that the commandment about sleeping in beds actually says, no animal shall sleep in a bed with sheets. Well, colour me surprised. Again in this chapter, Benjamin chimes in. We love Benjamin. We love his cynicism. And only Benjamin refused to grow enthusiastic about the windmill, though as usual, he would utter nothing beyond the cryptic remark that donkeys live a long time. Benjamin casting epic levels of shade. And of course in this chapter, the windmill is ruined, and Napoleon basically uses Snowball as a scapegoat for that. And having someone like Snowball to blame for everything that goes wrong on the farm works out very, very well for Napoleon. Not only that, but the animals actually start to fear Snowball. And as I've said before, when people are afraid, they're more likely to look to a strong, authoritarian leader who can protect them. So these tales of Snowball end up working out well for Napoleon in a couple of ways. First of all, it gives him a convenient scapegoat to blame all of his problems on, and it cultivates this sense of fear amongst the animals. And once again, if they're afraid, they're more likely to look to Napoleon for protection. And there's some of the important passages that I marked in this chapter. I think it's time that we go and do some writing. For this chapter, I'm going to get you to write another creative response. Write a conversation between Napoleon and Squealer as they try to justify trading with other farms and moving into the farmhouse. Try to take on the tone of these two characters and ensure that your dialogue matches their conniving ways. That's it for Chapter 6. I hope you enjoyed the discussion, and I'll catch you next time.